What's up, Simonics, and welcome back to another Build with Ionic Giant tutorial. Today we're replicating the YouTube app UI, and we will actually not get very far because those basic things already take a lot of time. So we're gonna create the tab bar, we're gonna create a nice bottom drawer, and we're gonna focus on the home layout of the different videos, as well as a nice header directive that automatically fades out the header and brings it in while we scroll. If you enjoyed these kind of videos, make sure you also check out Build with Ionic, which is my book to help you with all of these UI topics, to build really powerful UI directives, animations, gestures into your Ionic application, and you can get all of that in one book. For this video, you can find all the assets and code linked right below the video, and of course, make sure you stay subscribed for more Ionic videos in the future. But now, let's dive into this and build a little YouTube clone with Ionic Angular. Alright, let's get started with our application. Grab a nice cup of coffee. This is gonna take some time. We're gonna start with a blank, we're gonna start with a tabs layout this time, because the YouTube application comes with a tab bar, so we can also start with that template. Generate 2 additional pages for the tab bar, or actually 3 additional pages, which we'll use in different cases. And then also go ahead with a new module that we will use for a directive in the end. So we can generate all of this up front. On top of that, we need a few initial settings. So what we need is to change our tsconfig file to include resolve JSON module and allow synthetic default imports, because we're gonna import some local JSON data. And how do you get that folder? Well, simply click the link below this video, which should bring you to this overview where I've added the mock data for YouTube. So put that data folder in your assets folder, and then you should be good to go. We can hit save here. Am I really on the right zoom level? Yeah, just want to be sure that I don't have to record this again. It's because it's really gonna take a lot of time. Let's go ahead by changing our theme first of all. So of course the YouTube UI looks a lot different, so I'm gonna replace this object. But in fact, I think I only changed the first 2 colors, the primary color to black and the secondary color to red. And I actually don't think that I made a lot of changes to the other colors, so most likely you should be fine. But once again, you can find the full code to this tutorial right below the video. All right, now we can begin with the tab bar. I brought up Ionic Surf already, and this is how our application looks right now. What we want to create is an application that looks like kinda like this. So we got a header area up here, which actually fades away when we scroll. So we will get to that in the end. For now, we're gonna just make this static. But especially we have this bottom tab bar in which we got kinda 5 tabs, but in fact you can only select the 4 of them. And in the middle, this button actually triggers a nice little drawer component, and since we're on Ionic 6, this will be so easy to create. So let's do this. We can dive into the tab bar first of all. So we got the different folders right here, we got the different tabs, and within tabs we can find the tabs routing page. So within here we first of all want to integrate the 4th tab that we generated. Same import like before, yeah, just like this, and then it fits into our scheme. I guess actually we can change our app routing, yeah, because those screens are added in here. In fact, I don't think we need the details today. We can get rid of all of this. Now we also want to integrate that in our tabs page. So let's open it, and let's just simply put in another tab button. Let's call this one tab 4, for now just tab 4, and then we're gonna have 4 tabs in here. But of course we actually want to have 5 tabs. So in the middle I'm just gonna put another tab, and I don't connect it to a specific tab because I want to just trigger an action in that case. So I'm gonna assigning a click action, and then adding the add functionality to the tabs page. So now we have the initial setup of the tab bar with the 4 tabs. Of course, the icons are different. We're gonna get to that in a second. As well, there's something that you can see, it's maybe not super important, but we definitely, that's also interesting, something that we wanna do. That is, if you select an icon, it looks like this. So in the select mode, it is filled just like this, but if we leave, it stays in the fill mode. And what we see in a lot of applications is actually that in the inactive mode, you have the outline version of that icon. So we're gonna have to come up with a tiny little logic to make that work. And in the past, I used an interesting logic to see the selected tab, but I found there's actually an easier way. So we can just give a template reference to our tab buttons, and then we're gonna add an ion icon name depending on this selected state, because the tab button has a selected state, and so we don't actually need to get into our TypeScript file. We can do this directly in here. And then we're just gonna rename it to home. And that means if the tab is selected, we're gonna use the home icon. If it is not selected, we're gonna use the home outline icon. And as you can see right here, not selected, outline icon, selected, we got the full icon. And now we're just gonna replicate that for all of our tabs. So for tab 2, we're gonna use the template reference tab 2, and then a different icon and call this shorts. And then once again, same logic working fine. And the same now for the other 2 buttons down here, tab 3 with the albums icon, and tab 4 with library. Not completely like the official application, but well, you can create your own icon for shorts if you want to, and for library as well. I haven't found a good icon for that. It's a pity. Anyway, for the tab background, we see that right now it's kind of gray, and in the official application, I think it's just white. So let's get into the tabs page as CSS as well, and set the background color for our Ion tab bar to white. On top of that, I think yeah, the icons are always completely black, so we should change that as well. So let's do this. Ion tab button color, Ion color primary. So I think our primary color was just black, and now all the icons are just black and outlined or filled. On top of that, I think the stroke width of these icons is a tiny bit different, so we can do this as well. We can just change the Ion icon stroke width. So let's target the Ion icon inside the Ion tab button and use the Ionic stroke width. So how did Simon come up with something like this? I checked out the usage of the Ionicons, and if you check out the usage, you can of course set the font size and stuff like that, but you can also change the stroke weight by using Ionicon stroke width. This is pretty interesting. I don't know if you've seen this before, so maybe you learned a little additional thing today. So let's set this to 16 and let's observe them. And you see they are a lot finer. I kind of like them like this a lot more, and I think we're now pretty close to the YouTube tab bar, right? That looks good to me. Maybe this icon in the center, is there a slot-like icon only? I don't know. Let's give it a try. Nope, there's definitely not a slot for Ion icon. So probably we could make this even a bit bigger, but for now, let's just keep it like it is. Now we want to open this cool little bottom drawer, and we can just use the modal controller for that. So let's do this, private modal controller, and within the add function, which we will make an asynchronous function, we're gonna add the default code to show a modal, which looks like this. We're gonna pass in our sheet page to the create function as a component. We're gonna set the breakpoint and the initial breakpoint, which is the most important part to make this bottom sheet draw component work with Ionic. So by setting them, we say that the modal snaps at 50% of the view, and that's also going to be the initial breakpoint. So we could have more points, like we could have 0.7, but maybe you already know about this. So let's give this a try. And we see the sheet comes up. I could now also drag this to the 0.8 point and would snap there, or would snap at 0.5. I've set the handle to false. Let's see how this changes. So the handle is just this little line up here, which you, well, sometimes want to have, sometimes don't want to have. In our case, I actually don't want to have it. So what we're going to get now is a sheet that just opens to 0.5%, just like in here with the rounded borders. And now we just need to get into our sheet page to create those items. So I'm gonna just define the items within the sheet page, because that's gonna make life a bit easier. And then we just have to iterate them. Also, let's add the modal controller to this page, because we need a way to, oops, no, definitely not an alias from Ionic Angular. We also want to dismiss this page in the end, and that's the whole setup for our sheet page already. For the sheet page HTML, we're gonna go ahead. First of all, let's let's do the Ion content first, and then let's check out the header. So we're gonna go with an Ion item, ng for let item of items. I don't know why something in Visual Studio Code changed. Now I always jump after those. I don't know why. Well, maybe it's just my fault and I just need to be a bit slower. Could be the case as well. Interesting. Interesting. I'm gonna have to dive into that after the video. Anyhow, we're gonna use item.icon for the Ion icon, slot start, and that's it. And then an Ion label with the actual text, item.text. No code completion for me today. Well, okay. Okay, let's see. That looks, well, not completely like it. We see we still got the border below the Ion header, and the header text is in the center, and we don't have the button, but we can do this. So let's change this for the Ion title to mode MD. Because I know for material design, the title is actually always to the left, and so we're just gonna use it like this. Then it's even on the left if it is iOS. On top of that, for the toolbar, let's use color light. Again, I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. For the toolbar, yeah, color light, and then we want to get rid of the bottom border by doing class Ion no border to our Ion header. That works great all the time. I think we're getting closer. We're getting closer to this. We just need a bit more of padding, and we need the icon to the right hand side inside the toolbar. We can just do this with an Ion buttons for the slot end, a dismiss button, and then using the icon only. Yeah, I feel actually good about this. So we can also close this. Can we close this on background? Yeah, as well. That's good. That's a good page. The only thing missing right now is a bit more padding and a bit of background color for the icons. So let's do this inside the sheet page as CSS. We're gonna give it a margin top of, let's say, 10 already. That's gonna separate the icons a bit from each other. Oh, what's there in the background? Oops, that's already hide header directive. We're gonna use a margin bottom of 10 as well. Come on, page, just stay open. So we got pretty much the margins correct, I think. And now we just need something for the Ion icon. So let's go with an Ion icon. Give it a background color of, I don't know, something like this, kind of gray. A bit of padding, and then a border radius of just 50%. And then we should have a nice little gray background behind the icon. Yes. That's exactly what I wanted to see. Maybe even a bit too much of padding, and we could even once again use the stroke stuff we used in here. Where's the line? Because I feel like I feel like the icons are kind of heavy. Yeah, I think that gets even closer to it. Not completely the same icons, yeah, we have to live with that. But for the stroke width and the grade, I think that covers pretty much it. So, that's a good start. We're already done with the tab bar and the bottom drawer. Now we want to get into the actual home screen. So for the home screen, we have different areas that we want to target. We have the header area, as I said in the beginning, with the header and then a scrollable segment. Then we have the general view right here. And we also want to have some skeleton views, because in the YouTube app, you see when it's loading, it displays some skeletons. But we will get to that one by one. Let's first of all close all the files that we're done with. And then we can open the tab 1 page. Basically everything. And then take a sip of your coffee. Oh, delicious cold coffee. That's what you get when you record videos. All right, let's go into this. Tab 1 page, we're gonna definitely have an array of videos which we will load from our data. And we're gonna have some segments up here like all, gaming, Lord of the Rings, whatever you just watched yesterday and now YouTube is recommending to you. For the segments, we're gonna fill this just with a bit of information and, oops, yeah, that's better. I actually want to do something so all of them are initially unselected. I just want to have the names, but we're gonna make this an array with objects instead. So in the end, I could lock this out. Can I lock this out like this? Where's my shortcut? Yeah, that's not the shortcut. Like this? Kinda. Please put it into this line. Okay, so in the end it now looks like this. All are selected and have a title. That's just making TypeScript happy when we're using those from our view. Now, what we want to do as well for testing is add a little timeout. So I'm going to set a timeout for 1 second, or maybe we're going to set this to 5 seconds. And then we're gonna select our first segment. Yeah, we will definitely get to that function in a second, and also set our data, because if you're usually making an API call, you will have an empty array in the beginning, and just after a few seconds you're gonna have this. So this is our way of faking this. And also at this point we finally bring in our JSON file, which looks like this. Really, it's just an array of things, and actually I just did 3 different things and then I copied them. So title, author, views, go, duration, ID. That's all we got here. Next to this are a few images to create that whole overview page. Okay, so that means we got 5 seconds to implement our skeleton, but I think we're gonna actually start with the header area. So let's get rid of the default stuff in here. We don't want this. We actually don't want anything of this. I don't even want a title. First of all, we want to have an icon, and I'm gonna add the color light, because in the because in the official application it's also just white in there. So let's put in our logo up there. Looks good. Might use a bit of more padding later, but we're gonna leave this open for later. Then in the end slot, we're gonna add buttons. So you can see there are 4 different buttons right here. We're just gonna do this with the Ion buttons slot and then adding the different buttons. We're gonna use the size small because they're actually pretty small up here. If you would use them in the regular size, they would be too big in that place. So again, not completely 100% the icons, but I think it's fair enough for our case. And you can see that now they have a different bar below the actual header. So this is the header, and this is another bar that's kind of sticky in the same place. And you can achieve this usually by just adding another toolbar in here. That works pretty good. Just having another toolbar inside the header area is perfectly fine. And we're gonna add the color. I just have to wait and then I can input light. That's better. We're gonna do it like this. And for the segment, yeah, we could use Ion segments, but we would have to do a lot of customization. So instead, I'm just gonna roll my own class button bar. button bar, because it's really not too hard to implement this kind of horizontal scroll segments. Within, we're gonna add ion buttons. On click, they should select a certain, yeah, it's my fault. So, select a certain segment. So we definitely need to add that function now. This will select a segment, add an index, and then we're just gonna do some kind of magic in there. Of course, for all the buttons, we need to go through our segments. So let seg of segments, and I also want to keep track of the index for our function there. So I can now pass the index to the select segment. On top of that, I'm gonna make those buttons small as well. So let's do this, small. Yeah, okay, now I'm doing this twice. I really see, it's just my fault. Visual Studio Code is fine, it's just my fault. And within the button, we're gonna add the segment.title. Yes, but that was, yeah, well, it was my fault as well. Everything's my fault. Segment.title. All right, looks good. So by default, it will look like this. Of course, that's not what you want. So therefore, you go into your CSS and you're gonna have to apply to the button bar display flex. Yeah, that's also cool, but we're gonna have display flex and overflow x scroll. As a result, it's something like this. But you notice there's this little yeah, webbish scroll bar at the bottom. You definitely don't want to have this in application. I actually don't know if you see this on a device. Maybe you wouldn't see, but to get rid of it, simply put in WebKit scroll bar display none, and it's gone. Great, good news. Now, the only thing that's missing is different styling for the segment. So a segment might be activated or not, and we can do this with the ng class to apply conditional styling. So we want to apply the activated class if the segment is selected, and the inactive class if segment is not selected. Pretty easy actually, right? So we just need the active and activated. Why did I call this activated and inactive? That's not really how you do clean code, but well, okay, let's change it because you're here. Active, inactive, active. So for active, we're gonna use a different background color. As for inactive, just a little switch. Right now, nothing is active, so we're gonna have to select one in the beginning with our select index function. And within here, we're just gonna set all items to unselected, and then we're gonna set the one the user clicked on, index.selected to true. And now also clicking on them will work. And after our set timeout, we can now, maybe we're gonna do this a bit faster. But we see it's kind of working. And there we go. We can click them, we can select them. Maybe we could use a slightly different color. I feel like that's very dark. Also, let's compare this. Really, it's very dark. Let's give the digital color meter a try on my Mac. Come on. No, that's not where I wanted you to be. This. There we go. Digital color, copy color as text. And then we're gonna check the selected. Yeah. Okay, it was completely my fault because I messed up the name for the class. So now, yeah, that's kind of how it looks. Also, one more thing, I think we could use the shape round of the ion button. Yeah, to make it even more round. Maybe they have a bit more padding. Do we want to do this? Let's give it a try how it would look like with like 4 pixels of padding. Not very good. You would need a lot more, right? Can we see this please in a better way? That would be so cool. Ion button, where's my padding? Let's give this a try. Yeah. I wanted inside padding, so I might have to edit in here. Yeah, but then it's gonna mess up the row. Really, it's not getting a lot better. maybe a bit. We could set this to 16. Do you want it? Yeah, okay. So if we want to apply something to this part, we could now do this within the button bar on the Ion button part native. I think that's the button, and then padding of 16. Let's give it a try. Do we see any significant difference? Yeah, kinda. Could we change this now to 20? That's a good sign that we are, yes. So we're definitely targeting the right element here. We could make the bar bigger, but I think that's fine for now. We could also now change the click event here, the color, which is another Ionic color, but for now we're just gonna leave it like it is. I think we're pretty close to this bar in the UI. You can go with that. I think you're fine. Okay, now once again, sip of coffee. Still cold. And we can do the skeleton view now, right? Okay, so while we don't have any content, let's change this delay again to more seconds, or actually, we're not gonna set it anyway right now, so we can display the skeleton. We're gonna do ng if, I don't have to do anything, it just comes up. Okay, that's good to know. If we don't have any videos right now, we're just gonna create a fake array of elements. So you can do it with this syntax, let I of array constructor and then the length of the array you want to have. And then we just put in different Ion skeleton elements like this. So for example, we want to have one really big element at the top and then two more smaller elements below it. As a result, we got something that looks like this. So this is something you see in the YouTube app. Like you got the video skeleton preview and then you got 2 rows for the text below the video. And that's pretty much how it looks like if you start your YouTube application. Maybe they have some padding? No, actually don't think there's any padding. That's pretty much really what you get. And if you now add the timeout for like 1 second, you get this effect of 1 second skeleton, and then the segment is selected and we would see the data in our view. And I think that's pretty good. I would really recommend you work with skeletons if you have some kind of loading logic in your application, because that's really gonna help you a lot. Okay, now I'm also adding another function to the tab 1 page, which is a do refresh. In fact, there are by now interfaces for these events, but still the HTML won't be happy with that. But anyway, we're going to use it because we want to implement a little refresher here at the top, which will just after 1.5 seconds call the complete event, so then the refreshing will be done. Normally, of course, you make an HTTP request, and after the request is finished, you would call event target complete, but not in our case. In our case, we're just gonna add the Ion refresher slot fixed, so it will be fixed to the top. As I said, this is not happy about refresher custom event. I don't know how to make this error disappear, but yeah, we can live with that. And then we kind of use a different refreshing spinner if you want to, or polling icon, and then we get this. So I think that's pretty much how it looks in the YouTube application anyway. Alright, now we just need to create the preview of those little video blocks. This is gonna be, well, mostly this is about defining some CSS. So let video of videos, and we can get rid of a few of these, and we're pretty much sure that we can add some kind of custom class to this, and Ion margin bottom, so we have a little bit of space between all of them. Let's begin with the image, because this is the first step. In fact, I'm gonna remove the timeout right here for testing now. So I'm gonna just directly set the videos to the dummy data. And as a result, yeah, we just get this view automatically. Okay, we got the video. Now we also need the information below that video. For that, I'm gonna use an Ion row, so we can nicely align the different things in our view right here. Okay, or maybe we just make this a bit smaller. There we go. We can start with an Ion call size of, was this my fault again? No. Really, I really have to get into this. Yeah, whatever. No, let's just leave it open. So we're gonna have a setup where we use 2 for this block and then 8 for the text and maybe 2 for this. We could also position the dots here absolute. Might be even a better idea, but well, let's do it with 2, 8, 2, 8, and 2. So ion call size 2. No, actually this will be 8. Then we're at 10, and then we're gonna get another 2 in the end. So in the end, we're just gonna have the button with the ellipsis icon right here. Actually, I would like to have the text on the right, so I'm gonna use ion text right. This should move the button even a bit closer to the outside. Yeah, just a tiny bit. Then we got the first one, which should show an avatar image, because when we're using an Ion avatar, we actually automatically get this rounded image. And then you just put an image into the avatar or an Ion image, and then you get a nice preview like this. All right, once again, all of this is using our fake assets and using the fake video ID data. Finally, we just need our text within the middle column. So we're going to use the video title like this first of all. And then we might want to have the information about the creator of this video below it. So let's add another div element with an Ion text and the medium color, and just directly making this a bit smaller. Yeah, we could do this with CSS, but we could also do it like this. So as a result, we now have this setup. Again, column 2, column 8, column 2. Maybe this could also be column 1, and this could be column 9. Yeah, well, it's not perfect. Yeah, I would leave it to 8 and 2 for now, or otherwise position this better in an absolute way. But for now, I think that's a pretty good start. Here we just got the information aligned with some high dots, or what's the name? I'm not sure. And now there's one more thing that's missing in here, and that is the duration of a video. So the duration is above the image right here. Why can I select this? Apple is crazy. This is an image and I can select this here. Crazy. Anyhow, let's for the moment add the duration up here above the image. So let's give it a class duration and then just doing a bit of Angular on the duration. It will show up here. And now we can position this absolute. So let's for duration use an absolute position. Let's go down here, duration, position, absolute, and just gonna do something like right 15 pixels. Now we're gonna see something interesting. We're gonna see that it's actually in a pretty good place. Well, we're gonna see. And let's do it fixed position from top, or we could also use bottom. Yeah, and now we see what I wanted to show you. So all of these durations are gone because they are displayed here in an absolute position from the top 185 pixels. The problem is that they should be positioned relative to their video parent element. And to achieve this, we can select our video element right here and give every video the position relative. That means they start their own calculation, and all duration absolute positions will be calculated in relation to video. As a result, it's not bundled up here because it's 185 from the top. They select their 185 from their own video element. That's pretty good to know and something quite important to understand about positioning. Now, the rest of the duration is really just a bit of CSS more, background using different colors. And I feel like this is not what I wanted to have it like. This is, I don't know, maybe here? Or maybe we could use bottom. Well, anyway, looks fine to me. Actually, I think this should have a border. Whenever I do these tutorials, I'm like, maybe I should also improve this and improve that. And nobody see the border radius, but really to me it was kind of important right now. Anyway, I think we got pretty close to this. We got the tab bar, we got this up here. Maybe we could change the border color as well, but I think we can leave this for now. And we should definitely take a big sip of water. All right, I'm prepared for the last part. And I hope I will get through this. The last part is now about the animated header bar. You can see this when you scroll in the application. When you start to scroll, immediately the header goes up. And when you at some place start to scroll up, the header immediately comes back. So there's really an interesting concept, and we're going to apply this in our application. In fact, we kind of did something similar in the past already, where I also borrowed most of the code, and that is within the Gmail clone with Ionic Angular. So in there I also had this little animation. Yeah, when you scroll it fades away and then it quickly comes back in, and we're gonna do pretty much the same now. So let's open our directives, shared directives, and first of all add a block for the exports of the hide header directive. Now to use this, we can go back to our tab 1, that's the place where we want to use it, and insert the shared directives module. All right, now we're ready to use this on the tab 1 page, and I can already maybe add that, because what we want to do is we want to add the directive to our content, so the app hide header directive. And we want to pass in a reference to the header element, because that's the one we're going to have to change as well. We're adding the directive to the Ion content because we want to catch the scroll events, which we will have to set to true. And then our directive is able to listen to all these scroll events and can also target the header because we passed in the template reference to our header component. So that's the change you need in the tab 1 page. Why do you complain, app hider? Just don't care about it. Let's just get into it. I think once we define the input here, everyone should be quite happy. So let's define the input, and then the everyone, yeah, should be happy. Okay, the most important function in our hide header directive is this. We're going to use a host listener because we want to listen to the Ion scroll event of our host, which is the Ion content, and then do something. That's pretty much how all these header transitions or animations work. So you see, I can scroll now and I get these custom events. And in the detail block, you can find basically all the information you need to create cool animations or changes to the header, like the current coordinates, the velocity, the time, scroll top, the total distance. Really, all of this is something that we're gonna use. Now, the hide header directive is quite challenging, so let's do this one by one. In the past, if you watched the video about the Gmail animation, you saw that I also really had problems to figure out if we're scrolling in the one or the other direction, and it's the same right here. So we're gonna again use a logic to check if we previously scrolled into one or the other direction. So we're gonna store the previous Y and the direction and save this. I'm pretty sure you could make this in an easier way, but I haven't found one. Okay, we're gonna also inject a few things. We're gonna inject the renderer to apply styling to our DOM elements. We're gonna use the Ionic Angular DOM controller to schedule the writes to our DOM in a more efficient way. So we're not doing them immediately. We're scheduling them with the DOM controller to use the best next time slot, which is usually pretty fast. You won't notice a difference, but for the browser, it's gonna be a lot easier. The element ref is the reference to our actual host element. And then we're also gonna inject document, a reference to our overall document for a few reasons. The problem is that we need to know the height of our header. Yeah, we could actually say, well, it's just a fixed height. That's usually not a good idea. So in our case right here, the Ion header has a height of 88. On Android, if I would change this to a pixel and then refresh, we would see the header has a height of 112. So we're going to store this and use the isPlatform function from Ionic Angular to check if we're running on iOS. Then we're going to set this scroll distance to 88, otherwise to 112. This is simply the distance that we want to scroll out our header element. And in fact, we're going to scroll it a bit further. So let's implement after view init function. And within this function, ng after view init, we want to implement something. So first of all, we want to reset our values. Don't I have a content element yet? Okay. Well, look at the ion content is what I said. The element ref is our host element. So the reference to the host element, we can inject this in the constructor and then just use it like this after view init. So now we have the really access to the header and to the content, because we're gonna have to resize both of them. On top of them, we need a little additional calculation, because in iOS, where's my phone? I don't know where my phone is. There's a save area at the top. So if we just scroll it out for 88 pixels, you will still see the rest of this. And that's a problem on iOS. So for iOS, we're gonna do a little calculation here. Let's bring this in. The calculation looks like this. We get the save area by using our injected document, really just the DOM, and call get property value of ion save area top. We want to get the value of a CSS variable, and that's basically the way to get this. As a result, you will get something like 40 pixels, maybe. And that's not a great value if you want to add it to our scroll distance. So we split by pixel, use the first value, just 14, and since we still have a string, we convert it to a number. That's line of pretty powerful, maybe the most powerful line of this tutorial. Okay, and then we can just add it to our scroll distance. So in the end, it's still dynamic and works for iOS and Android, and we can be sure that it completely scrolls out the header, not just using the height. Yeah, we could just add 20 pixels, then we'll scroll a bit further, but well, this is the way to make it really complete. On top of that, we need to change two CSS values for our content. When we scroll, we're gonna fade out the header, or maybe let's just get started with that. Let's get started, because that's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna bring in this now one by one and try to explain what we're doing. So first of all, we're gonna prevent all events where the current Y of the scroll event is below or equal to 0. Let's quickly do another look of our event, and I'm gonna show you why. So while we scroll, the detail current Y is something like this. So the value gets up. Maybe we could even do this. Would make a lot more sense. So let's just log this out. While we scroll, the value goes up. If I now scroll back, the value decreases and we reach 0. But on iOS, you're able to drag this even further and you will get into negative values, and you don't want to do any kind of reposition in that case. So now we're gonna get our distance from the event, and we're gonna store the direction, because we try to figure out the direction and do a few more calculations. In fact, let's just bring in the whole calculation and then we're gonna go through this. So we got our scroll top value, which is the distance from top, and we set the new direction for now to down, which might change later down here. Also, we're going to calculate in the previous Y, because otherwise the animation can be a bit bumpy. So we're going to use it like this, and then also check in which direction we're actually scrolling. So therefore we use the save Y, which we will store in the end. So in the end, after we did our repositioning, we're just going to save the current Y value like this. Well, we were left up here. Good night. So the new direction is either down, as we said in the beginning, or down up, so the opposite direction, if our save Y is bigger than the current Y. It's a pretty easy check. And then also making sure that our new position, which is the new position for the header bar, isn't somewhere completely out of the bounds. So this is why we used our scroll distance. And finally, we're gonna have to reposition the content as well. But maybe we're gonna leave this line out for now because that's already enough. And we should see now a little recalculation of our header, which looks like this. We're using the DOM controller write function to make this more performant, and then called renderer set style to change the appearance of our header by changing the top property to either position 0 or the new position. Really, this is important. Otherwise, you can really get into a lot of troubling cases if you get below 0. As a result, we now scroll and reposition our header element out of the view, just like this. And this is exactly what I wanted to show you, but I want to do iOS as well. So you see, header is going, that's cool. If I scroll back, header is actually not coming back yet, because I think, yeah, there's a little snip missing below this. And that is, if the direction changed, store the point of change, so for the new calculation. Really, check out the code link below this video. I did a lot of comments in there as well. This is just to check that we turned, so we scrolled until here, and then we go into the different direction and make sure that we scroll in the header now at the right place. But again, you see we scroll it out and scroll it in. That works pretty good. But the Ion content just stays in this place, and that's the problem. We're moving the header out, but we're not repositioning the content. And to do this, we're gonna have to add to our Ion content. Where's the Ion content? There, position absolute. So only by positioning in an absolute way, we will be able to overcome this. Or we could always add it to the top and then use margin, but that will look kind of ugly. So instead we want to have the absolute position, and we could do this within our tab 1 SCSS file, or I'm just gonna do it in here because then we can use this hide header directive really completely on its own. So what I'm doing now is setting the position to absolute, and also setting the top value so it's below the header. If I wouldn't do this, this is how it will look like in the default case. So now it's in an absolute position. The only problem is we're still not changing the position of the content element. And we see at the bottom, we also can't see the full video. So for this, we're gonna add another block to our DOM write. And this is where the new content position comes into play. So this is also gonna using the scroll distance, which is like 88 or something, and then the new position, which is hopefully a negative value. And then we're gonna reposition now the content, set the top value, and then again, the minimum of our scroll distance or the content position. Does this make sense? The minimum? Shouldn't the scroll distance be like 88? Let's see. It kind of looks exactly like it should. So we can see everything at the bottom. Yeah, it's the minimum. So if content position is 0, we're of course at 0. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. That's exactly. And then we bring back the header, and everything at the top fits again. So at this point, if we would now check out our view, the Ion content, you would see that position absolute, top 0. Actually, no, you shouldn't have top 0. Can we do this? Shouldn't you have like a different value, or is it, maybe it's written somewhere else? No, it's top 88. Oh yeah, there we see the different values. It just goes to top 0 at some point. So now it's in a distance of 88 like in the beginning, and then it just decreases. And now it's at a top distance of 0. So all of you would know, just go up until here. And I think that's exactly what we wanted. So we have the scroll out and the header coming in again. I hope you like this. We got the horizontal scroll, we got the bottom drawer, and we got the tab bar with the different outline and filled icons. And with that, we even got a refresher. Now we just need to go back here and change this inside the tab 1 page. So we have a little loading of our skeleton, and then we have a skeleton loading followed up by the YouTube UI, just like in the YouTube application. Alright, and that's it for today. I don't know if this is the record for a video. We had a lot of long build with Ionic tutorials, but this one is getting pretty close to the longest video I have on the channel. Anyway, if you stick with me, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a lot of things, not just about the grand scheme of building apps with Ionic, but also small little details like different classes to use, no border, have the stroke width of an icon, and all of these small things that you can embrace in your daily code to build better Ionic applications. Again, if you enjoy replicating popular interfaces, you should check out Build with Ionic, my book that helps you to build amazing interfaces with Ionic with concrete examples of apps like Netflix. And of course, check out the Ionic Academy if you want to get in general better with Ionic and build mobile applications in no time. I hope you enjoyed this. Stay subscribed to the channel, leave a like, and I will catch you next week with maybe a little shorter video. But anyway, happy coding, Simon.